everyone and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my top 10 reads that I read in 2019. And by reads, I mean books that I hadn't read yet and read for the first time in 2019. I did reread a lot of my favorite books in 2019. For example, I reread Vampire Academy and the Harry Potter series and the House of Night series, which are three of my favorite book series, but I won't be counting those. I'm only going to be counting books that I read for the first time in 2019. I would like to apologize for this video being just like majorly late again. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you are new to my channel. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So, coming in at number 10 on my list of top 10 favorite reads of 2019 is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I have been meaning to read this book for a very long time and I finally managed to pick it up in 2019. I actually didn't think that I was gonna like it this much because I'm not usually a huge fan of contemporary books. I prefer my romances to be a bit more in the fantasy genre or, you know, in other kinds of genres that, you know, aren't super contemporary, but I really did enjoy this book. I thought the romance was really steamy and really hot, and I thought that the romance was also really cute. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised by the fact that I really enjoyed this book, and I just remember having really, really pleasant memories when reading it. I don't really remember the plot like very specifically, but I just remember it being a really fun read. I think I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, and I would definitely reread it again sometime in the future. Coming in at number 9 on my list of top 10 favorite reads I read in 2019 is Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. I know this is going to stir up a bit of controversy because I know a lot of people out there, especially on the booktube community, didn't really enjoy this book. I was actually very, very pleasantly surprised that I actually was really enjoying this book while I was reading it. I actually came into the book thinking that I wasn't going to like it because I had previously already watched and read a couple of non-spoilery reviews where people didn't like the book so much, so I went into it almost expecting to hate it. So I was actually really surprised to find myself enjoying this book. I mean, it could just be that I haven't read that many sci-fi books, have nothing to really compare it to, but I really, really enjoyed Zenith. I thought that the setting was really great, I thought the characters were really interesting, and I actually did also really enjoy the plot. I actually have a review video up on my channel where I talk about my honest and objective opinions about Zenith, so if you guys want to go check that out, I will link it down in the description down below. But yeah, I actually like this book. I don't really have, I mean, I have a couple of things to criticize about it maybe, but I thought it was really good. And I actually look forward to reading the second book of the series, which is currently on my bookshelf, Nexus, which I am planning to read sometime soon. Number 8 on my list is actually not a single book, but it is actually a series of books, which is the Princess Diaries series by Meg Cabot. I wanted to read the series for the longest time that I can remember because the Princess Diaries and the Princess Diaries 2 are like one of my favorite movies ever. I think that they are fantastic. They are great movies. And I remember when I was younger, I think I had actually read the Princess Diaries 1 like a really, really long time ago, but I didn't really remember what happened in it. And then I was at the Frankfurt Book Fair last year and I saw that they had the entirety of the series for only like 20 euros or something, so I decided to pick it up and I read all of the books like back to back within the span of maybe like 3 weeks or something. There are 10 books in the series. There is actually one more book that is set, I think, like 10 years after the last book, which I still haven't read yet, but I'm very excited to get to. This series definitely did not let me down. It was just as fun and lighthearted and comedic that I had hoped for. The movies and the books aren't exactly the same. There are quite a lot of differences, in particular like the main love interest that Mia has in this series, but I did just love the series so much. It gave me like all the good feels and all the warm like book cuddles, and I just thought it was really, really great. Number 7 on my list is The Red Scrolls of Magic, which is the first book in the Eldest Curse series by Cassandra, Clare, and Wesley Chu. This book was really sweet. I have always been a really big Malik shipper. I think Magnus and Alec are really cute together, and I thought that it was really great that finally they had their own book series or book. I don't remember that much about what happened in this book, but I just remember it being a really fun story. The romance between Magnus and Alec is obviously really sweet, and I really enjoyed that as well. So yeah, The Red Scrolls of Magic was a very, very fun read for me, and also it's not that long. I think it's only about, well, okay, it's an average book size. It's 340 pages long about, so it didn't take me that long to get through, and I did really enjoy it. Number 6 on my list is To Death and Back by Geanna Culbertson, which is the 5th book in the Crisanta Knight series. The Crisanta Knight series is not a very popular series. It is by a relatively new author. I have talked about the Crisanta Knight series on my book channel before. If you guys are new here, you might want to go check out those videos that I posted. But essentially, the Crisanta Knight series is about a girl called Crisanta Knight, who is the daughter of Cinderella and Prince Charming. She goes to this special school for, you know, the sons and daughters of the fairy tale heroes and protagonists, or other people who have been chosen to star in their own sort of fairy tale story. And she basically does not want to conform to the sort of typical princessy, you know, rules of etiquette, and she basically just wants to be a hero. And it's about her discovering herself, fighting evil, battling like enemies with her friends. I can't really say much about this book without like spoiling the other books, but it was very, very exciting. It definitely did not let me down. I've loved every single book in the Crisanta Knight series. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoy the whole Crisanta Knight series. I will be linking all of the, you know, books that I'm mentioning on this video down below, so you might want to go check out and see whether the first book, you know, the plot interests you, and if it does, I would highly recommend for you to go read it, because it is a very, very fun series. So yes, To Death and Back was a great read. Coming in at number 5 on my list is actually a duology, or not just one book, but 2 books, namely Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, both by Leigh Bardugo. I finally got round to reading these books last year. They have been on my TBR for an eternity. I finally read them, and they were amazing. I loved the Six of Crows duology. It was honestly so much better than I had expected. Like, just the entire like premise and like the characters were just amazing, and I just love how they were all like thieves. I'd never read, I don't think I'd ever actually read a book about a heist before, so that was something new to me. I thought the world was really interesting, the world that I had already known from the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which I will be getting to in a moment. The character development was fantastic in this series. It made me cry, it made me laugh. So the hype for, you know, these 2 books definitely is not unwarranted. It is a fabulous series that I would highly recommend every one of you guys to also go pick it up if you haven't read it yet. Coming in at number 4 on this list is going to be kind of controversial considering the book series that I had just previously mentioned a second ago, but it is actually the Grisha Trilogy, so Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Rune of Rising. I know a lot of people, I know a lot of people prefer the Six of Crows duology to the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I can understand why, but I think this series was better. And I don't necessarily mean writing-wise. I do think that the writing of Leigh Bardugo, you can tell that it is better in the Six of Crows duology. However, I was a bit more invested in these characters. I am also just like an absolute sucker for like fantasy and magic and things like that, and I felt like this series kind of got into the, you know, the Grisha magic, like not magic, but the Grisha sort of powers a bit more than the Six of Crows duology. The Six of Crows duology is a lot more focused on, you know, that heist that's going on, whereas I feel like this series kind of like shows you the world that these books are actually set in to begin with. I was just like a tiny bit more invested in Alina and Maul and the Darkling story than I was invested in the characters from the Six of Crows duology. Just a quick disclaimer though, I think both series are really great. I do not think that the Six of Crows duology is a bad series. It's all my favorite reads of 2019. I thought the story was also fabulous. I think the character development was amazing. However, I just liked the series more, and y'all can disagree with me. Number 3 on this list is the first book in a new series by PC and Kristin Cast, who are the two authors who wrote or co-wrote the House of Night series, and that is The Dysasters by PC Kristin Cast. I was lucky enough to be able to actually get an arc of this book early last year. I think this book came out in the spring of 2019 or something, but I think I read it in January. So this book is about a group of teenagers who discover that they have powers that allow them to control the weather. This is something that I'd actually never heard before. I mean, you hear about people having superpowers in books, but never powers that are sort of like specifically tied to just like the weather, I guess. Maybe that's just me though, because I haven't come across a book like this before. But I thought this book was really great. I think the characters were very interesting. I also loved how this book included a transgender character named Charlotte. I thought this book was very interesting, and I also love how this copy of the book actually has like pictures, I don't know if you guys can see this, of like the characters in here. I thought that was really cool, or I think this is really cool. I actually bought this book after I'd already read the arc, and yeah. I am a huge sucker for PC and Kristin Cast's books, in particular PC Cast. She has written a lot of my favorite books. So I was very happy that I got to read this book. I'm very excited to see where this series is going. I think this is going to be like a trilogy, or I'm not sure how many books are gonna come out. I don't think a second book has been announced yet, so I'm very intrigued to see when a second book is gonna come out. And I actually think that they're currently working on a new series about a set of sisters who are like witches or something, which I'm super excited about as well. But this was a fantastic read and definitely made it into my top 10 favorite reads of 2019. Number 2 on my list of favorite reads of 2019 is no other than the 5th book in the School for Good and Evil series, A Crystal of Time by Soman Chainani. I can't say much as well, like without spoiling anything, but this book series is amazing. I think I've mentioned it like a million times on my channel as well. I know it's middle grade, but it is a fantastic series. The School for Good and Evil is a fantastic series, and I'll say it again. So this is kind of like the second book in the second trilogy of the School for Good and Evil series. The first 3 books are kind of like the books that are about like their school life in the School for Good and Evil. I think the 4th book in this book is kind of like set a tiny bit afterwards, and it's about their life after they graduate from the school. So that's why this series is called The Camelot Years, for reasons I can't name because it involves like a main character. So this book was fantastic. I think the cover is just beautiful. Like, I don't know if you guys can properly see it, but I thought this book was amazing. As always, the characters went through a lot of shit and the plot did not disappoint me. It's really hard to like talk about a book without trying to spoil the plot, but like trying not to repeat yourself. I mean, I basically said like this book is amazing, fantastic, like to all these books that I talked about, but this book really was amazing, and I would highly recommend for you to go and read the School for Good and Evil series if you haven't already. Just do it. So my favorite read of 2019 was Forgotten by Kristin and PC Cast, which is the 3rd book in the House of Night Otherworld series. This book was great, and I might be very biased. I mean, not just might be. I am very biased putting this on my number 1 on my list. I love this series very much. I grew up reading this series, or the House of Night series, not the Otherworld series, and I am very invested in the characters of the House of Night series. I do think, and this is like, I'm saying this very tentatively, trying not to offend anyone, I think that this series doesn't have as good a writing style as other books that I read, but that doesn't make me love it any less, because I love the House of Night world, I love the plot that happens, and I love the characters. I know a lot of people don't like the House of Night series. I don't care. I think the House of Night series is fantastic. I love this like magical vampire creation that PC and Kristin Cast have made. I'm very invested in the magic of that world because I think it's very interesting how they tie together this like vampirism, but also this like elemental magic and this sort of like mystical sort of like religious aspect as well. I thought that was always really cool. And the Otherworld series basically continues from where the House of Night series has finished. I can't say much, obviously, without spoiling anything, but a villain has come back, and we can read her origin story about this other world. I mean, I can't really say anything, and I'm very excited for Found, which is the 4th and last book in the Otherworld series, which I think is coming out in July this year, I think, or June. No, I think it's July. And I really think that this book, even though there are already so many House of Night books out there, I do think that this book adds a lot of depth into certain characters' perspective. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but I thought it was really great. I am always really happy when a House of Night book comes out. I really hope that PC and Kristin cast don't stop writing them. I can't say anything without spoiling anything, but this book was amazing. I loved it. It was my favorite read of 2019. So those were my top 10 reads of 2019. I would be really interested in knowing whether you guys read any of these books for the first time last year, and whether you guys also enjoyed them as much as I enjoyed them. Were any of your favorite reads on my list as well or not? Please let me know down below. I hope that you guys are having a great morning, evening, afternoon, or night, wherever you are, and I will see you guys with a new video soon. Bye!